Hi Camilo, I am Mark Harris and I'm an animator at Pixar Animation Studios and I am ready to critique your work. Let's begin.
It's like a predator. It's stalking you. Oh, you can try and outrun it with doctors, medicines. But in the end, time is going to hunt you down and make the kill.
So first off, when I see this, I ask a question: what is the character looking for? What does he want? And generally, what's going on in the scene? I see a doctor type person stethoscoping a metal beast of some sort, and I'm not sure what he's going for other than checking vital signs. When I listen to the dialogue, I want to know how that relates to what his goal is here. So as he's speaking here,
it's like a predator.
It's like a predator. I automatically get, okay, he's talking about this character here.
Stalking you. Oh, you can
And then when he walks away, I'm expecting to know why he walks away. So let's find out.
try and outrun it with doctors.
So he doesn't seem to really doing anything motivating the reason he walks away, other than to deliver like a soliloquy or something like that.
Medicines. But in the end, time is going to hunt you down.
Time somehow needs to play a part, I feel, in what's going on here. He doesn't have time, or the character down there is about to die. That could be strengthened in a way.
And make the kill.
And then after
It's like
after he makes his line, your character pops up in the background as if to scare this guy over here. Perhaps he's done his job. He meant to bring him back to life or to create him. He reacts in a very surprised way, which from the beginning he's checking his vital signs, and then when he actually is awake, he's scared and doesn't know what to do. I feel like we could be more consistent with what the character on the left needs. So overall, when you're animating this stuff, see if you can come up with a clear goal that the character wants and how he attains it at the end of his shot. Whether it's something simple like he goes from being very caring to scared, or if he goes from caring to someone to being spiteful. It doesn't matter what the goal is. He just needs to reach somewhere. Let's look again. Oh, so another thing that you've chosen to do is have 3 different camera moves in your shot, and I feel like most of the time the simplest thing is usually the best. So I do one of 2 things: either use this camera that you have right here, and he's maybe posed a little more 3/4 at us, but with his feet maybe here. Let me draw it. Over here. So I'm thinking something more like when he's laying down, like this. So he's about 3/4 back, and then he can sit up to something more like this. This would simplify the camera, and you wouldn't need that in between kind of thing. Or you could stay in this first thing, and he stands up here. I feel like we need a reason to motivate this camera move here, and right now it's only to separate himself, and he's technically actually already separated in the shot before. If you were stuck with this camera and you had to keep using this camera, perhaps there's something dangling in front of here that he needed to come back to the character to help him out or something like that, whatever his goal is here. So overall, in terms of readability of your shot, I need to have a clear reason of I need to have a clear idea of what the characters are doing and what the relationship is, and what the main character here intends for this other character. Alright, so let's look at the animation part.
doctors, medicines. But in the end, time is going to hunt you down and make the kill.
Alright, so let's look at some performance and gesturing. He does a gesture that is, time is going to make you kill, but what does that really mean for him? And when he's like, time, is he like, I'm strong? Or could it be something more specific? Like, the character is going to die, or I only have so long for him to live. Perhaps he grabs something that's going to save his life, and he's saying time and looking at the object that's going to save his life. More specific here.
It's like a predator. It's stalking you.
Let's look at attitudes in the face. It's like a predator. What does he mean by that? Does he mean that this character is going to stalk his enemies? And so when he says that,
A predator.
you have the shape right here, predator. He looks a little questionable there. So perhaps his attitude could be more clear. Maybe he's more conniving at this point, in which you would want something like downturned eyebrows and maybe more evil expression. Something like this. Clear attitude overall.
It's stalking you.
It's stalking you. What is that attitude?
Oh, you can try and outrun it with doctors.
This is probably one of the most clear attitudes you have, and it's really only that of thought. In general, to make this more appealing, you could probably settle down on the eyebrows in some of these places like this. I like the idea of a connected eyebrow here, but it doesn't have to be so extreme. It could be maybe like this. A little less extreme, or less extreme than that. It could be something like this. There's still a flow in between the brows, but it doesn't have to be like that.
Medicines.
Another thing you have happening here is the eyes closing at different times. And typically you don't really want that unless you want a character that seems kind of goofy, something like that. So close those at the same times, or close those eyes at the same times. Close those eyes at the same time. This feels weird that we have a pupil moving over when the other one's not. And I'm just taking a pass in the eyes right now overall. I'm looking for things that cause questions for me, like what was that? What did that mean? Here you have one eye moving and the other one's not moving at all. I don't know if that means something overall should be helping that other eye move across so they still feel somewhat connected, and that the other one's not a separate robotic piece than the other. Also, your character in general, polish-wise, is very stiff here. I can tell you're not really moving anything in this area. So you want some kind of keep alive. And the only thing keeping you alive right now is the camera. If the camera was not moving, I'm sure the pixels right there wouldn't be really buzzing. And you want little pixels to buzz overall. So your camera is helping you with that, but you also need the animation there as well.
And make the kill.
You have like these one-frame eye pupil transitions right there. It snaps to it. Give that at least 3, and maybe the spacing of those transitions, if those are your 2 poses from over here to over here, the spacing of that pupil moving over, given this is the giant eyeball, would be something like 1, maybe a slow out, 2, and then slow out here, slow out, something like that. So there's at least 4 frames in there, and the middle isn't that important, but you need at least 1 or 2 more frames in here of these pupils moving, something like that. This is a spacing chart.
Make the kill.
And you've got, if you watch the path of his shoulders, if you imagine watching this in profile, you have a bend in the torso that's forward bend here. There. But it snaps into position if you watch the spacing. If you were to trace maybe like this back little corner of his neck, it goes from down here to up there to up there. It's pretty extreme spacing, so you want to smooth some of that out. And it's also not on a very clean arc. Perhaps this piece right here, your bend is more forward so that the arc of his body is a little clearer. And you can also tell in the way that his shape of his head juts forward all of a sudden. It's backward and juts forward. So you need more blending shapes in between here. Or more specifically, you need better spacing from the poses you even already have. So another reason you can tell is with this ear right here. As it comes up, comes down, goes up, goes over, goes back. So it's got kind of a jagged shape. You want all that to be somewhat smooth in here.
It's like a predator.
Another polishy thing when you get into it, I like that you're leading this move with the elbow. This is nice. But again, if you watch the fingers and the wrist here, you seem to, if you watch this corner right here, it seems to get caught in space. Moves up, gets caught, and then slams down. Now, anything that's falling onto something, if you watch the spacing of this, you have a very even spacing here. Something like this is the path of landing on it. Your spacing right now is very even in between here. Since it's falling down on something, you could have a more specific spacing with gravity helping out. And you space it like this. Boom. So you have more frames at the top, and then you slam down on the bottom, and then maybe after that there's like a small bounce, 1 or 2 frame bounce in here. But again, we're avoiding very even spacing, all of these spaces being the same versus getting longer and shorter as we go. Also, as you move this hand, see if you can get the shoulder to relate to this. The shoulder helps move the hand over. Also, if the shoulder is going to move, it also moves my torso. My torso has to move over to keep balance while this big hunk of meat comes up. So the torso is also going to want to help the hand reach its goal. So the whole body's used in movement here.
It's like a predator. It's stalking you. Oh, you can try and outrun it.
I'll say the last physical thing here. As he walks over, I'm not feeling the steps. I just see translation. All this here, I'm not really feeling any steps. So you might want to put some very obvious up and downs and movement here. When you get up, there's a few steps that your legs are doing to keep you balanced and to keep you erect in position so that you can fall in your place successfully as you move across the scene. So make sure you get some up and down in there. And I would just plot out your steps to make sure exactly what
it's stalking you. Oh, you can try and outrun it.
Again, we're seeing some even spacing on his arm as it comes down here and points and comes back up. He moves his goggles up very evenly as well. You watch the spacing on that. It's very even as it comes up. Choose whether you want to gather the frames in the beginning of the move or at the end of the move.
Medicines. But in the end, time is going to hunt you down.
As you move here, if you watch this movement forward, he seems to speed up all of a sudden halfway through this move. So a way to create nice in-betweens from pose to pose is imagine this is your curve. This is one knot, and this is the beginning of your knot. And this is the path up to your next pose. You tend to do a thing where you flow too much through this pose. There's too much of a change from here to here. So what you can do is, again, if this is your pose, copy this knot over and then just push it up a bit. Just extend it. Or grab a knot here and then extend some more. The point being, you don't want it to be that crazy. You want it to be, copy the knot over, push it up just a bit. You want this to be relatively small to the rest of this, but it's still moving through. Cool. All right. Now you're doing an overshoot here too, I notice. And then you come down. You're holding in this top pose for a while, and then you settle down very slowly. So I imagine that this curve looks something like, you're going to take all that internal, especially your up and down curve, looks something like, hold up here for a while, and then you come down like this. This is a little too extreme of a curve, the way you build this. Now what I like to do is imagine a curve and you're going to do an overshoot. The rate at which you come up right here and get into your final curve, this is your overshoot right here. The rate that you get into that, which is from here to here, should somewhat match the rate you come down. So you notice how these two sections are somewhat symmetrical coming through the middle here. And then you come down like this and slow out of that. You're staying up here a little too long before you come down. So just keep that in mind.
It's like a predator. It's stalking you. Oh, you can try and outrun it with doctors, medicines. But in the end, time is going to hunt you down.
I don't know if your lip sync's off from your video, but what I like to do is look for the ah sounds and make sure the ah pops right in the middle of your mouth shape. So you start going there a little earlier.
With doc.
A lot of this is just time, doing it over and over and over. But let's take an example.
But in the end, time is...
So time, you don't look at the T of the time, you look at the ah of the time. And you try to match it to the time ah of the time instead of the consonants.
Like a predator. It's stalking you. Oh,
overall, your brows are also a little more... your brows tend to keep moving and they don't really stop. I would like them to stay in more of a specific pose for a longer period of time before they change to another attitude / pose. So to recap, overall we're looking at ways to simplify your camera moves and stuff, and to make sure that we have more of a relationship between the two characters that reads, and having a goal for your character that's very clear. And everything they do, including the gestures, are more specific to the goals of that character. Good luck. Thanks for listening.